Hello everybody, Zach Couples, physical therapist here, and folks, when you're doing any type of pullover variation, does this look like you?
Yeah, we're killing it. Ugh.
Maybe you're someone who's only feeling your pullover in your lower back and you're not getting any abs whatsoever. It's a lot of lat and your chest is kind of meh. If that's you, I hate to break it to you, but you're screwing it up. And the reason why, folks, is because any type of pullover variation is oftentimes poorly programmed and poorly executed. And the reason why that is because a lot of individuals out there, and especially your supreme clientele, don't really grasp the biomechanics behind the pullover exercise, and they don't know some of the major coaching cues and errors needed to get the most out of it. But don't worry, your boy Big Z is gonna solve that problem for you today, because I'm gonna dive deep, I'm talking deep, fam, into the biomechanics behind the kettlebell pullover, which can inform who should get it, when you should program it, how to best coach this awesome move so you'll torch your abs, loosen up the chest, and we'll go over a lot of the common errors and many of the variations that we'll see at the gym. So let's go ahead and give it a shot.
Grasping the biomechanics behind any pullover variation is actually quite simple. What we're going to focus on first is looking at what the humerus is doing as well as the scapula. When I initiate the pullover, I'm going to perform a forward reach at about 90 to 100, 110 degrees of shoulder flexion. That forward reach is going to do two things. It's going to protract the scapula or abduct it, and it's going to upwardly rotate it slightly because of the degree of flexion that is present at the humerus. And then as I maintain that forward position, I'm going to slowly raise the arm overhead, which is going to drive even further upward rotation of the scapula as well as shoulder flexion. Now you might be wondering, Zach, that's interesting that that's going on. I wonder what has to happen at the rib cage in order for the scapula and the humerus to complete that movement. And I'm glad you asked. When I protract, move forward, and upwardly rotate the scapula, there's a wonderful, outstanding muscle that attaches to the rib cage that helps with that, and that is serratus anterior. This muscle runs along the rib cage right here on the upper 8 or 9 ribs, so it encircles the side of it. And when that muscle contracts proximally or at the rib cage attachment, what it serves to do is it squeezes the rib cage side to side, so it compresses the lateral portion of the rib cage. This we also see when we exhale, like that. So if I'm squeezing the sides of the rib cage, that's going to create an exhalation strategy. It's going to make the sides smaller, and here's the cool thing, it's going to allow the front and back of the rib cage to get bigger. When I squeeze the sides, the front and back get larger. Something also has to happen as I move my arm overhead. In the range of shoulder flexion that we will be working in for the pullover, which again starts about 90 degrees-ish of shoulder flexion, could get all the way up to about 145. Well, as I continue to upwardly rotate the scapula in that range, I'm also getting scapular external rotation, which when I externally rotate the scapula, the glenoid, which is where your humerus sits, is going to orient outward. The inner border of the rib cage is going to squeeze against the upper back. If I'm breathing in that portion of the pullover, which your boy coaches, I can't push air into the back because muscles back here are tense, they're contracting. So air's got to go somewhere. Where's it going to go? If I squeeze the back, boom, it's going to push towards the front. You're going to get the pump handle action of the rib cage to better occur. The other interesting thing that will happen is if I can get rib cage pump handle action to happen, which is when the front of the rib cage moves forward and upward, that means the shoulder blade is going to stay in that externally rotated position, which creates a relative internal rotated position of the humerus. As you'll see right here, when I bring it up close, hopefully it looks, but when I externally rotate the scapula, the humerus creates a relative internal rotation. You might be able to see a little bit better from this front view, but if you look at the tubercles on the front of the humerus, this is internal rotation of the humerus. Now I'm going to externally rotate the scapula. So you'll see, when I internally rotated it, the tubercles got closer to the front of the glenoid. If I externally rotate the scapula, same thing. So they are one and the same. Therefore, if we have a rib cage that is going to squeeze side to side and it's going to expand, especially in the front, we can surmise then that if we have someone who needs the lateral rib cage to compress or get smaller, someone with a wide infrasternal angle presentation, if you're a movement nerd like me, or if you just got a wider frame, or if I have a loss of shoulder internal rotation, which better ability to expand the front should improve that, those would be the two telltale signs that I would program a pullover for someone. And depending on what I see in the hips, as we'll find out later, I can program different variations of the pullover to also enhance the range of motion in the legs. Now that we got the biomechanics out of the way, let's go into how in the heck we can perform any pullover variation to the best of our abilities so we can maximize these mobility gains.
I'm going to show you the hook line variation because that's where I start a bulk of my supreme clientele with this move. And so with that, you're going to start from the bottom, work your way up. So when I'm in the bottom position, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to do a slight tuck if I need it, right? If you're someone who's got more of a sway back posture where your hips are a little bit more forward than the torso, then you're not going to do much tuck at all. But if you're someone who's got like a deep arch in your back, oh, this one's for you. So with the tuck, I'm going to keep my hands just on my, like right below the belly button, and I'm just going to press my feet into the ground gently, heel emphasis, push the knees slightly forward, curl the hips. You shouldn't feel your abs engaged at this point. You might get a little bit of the back of the head. So just subtle, nothing too crazy. Now is when it gets a little interesting. Let's add the weight into the mix. I'm going to use a kettlebell. I generally like the feel of this better than dumbbells. But you're going to start at about chest height. Sometimes if people get a little discomfort here, I'll cheat it a little bit higher up, especially if you're someone who's got a wider rib cage, wide infrasternal angle for your movement nerds out there. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a silent inhale through the nose. Exhale, I want you to reach this slowly through to the ceiling like that. Get it right, you're going to feel your abs engage. Now, a lot of times, people will screw that up by getting a little overzealous with the reach. So they might crunch like this, so you'll see kind of the ab wall pooch out like that. If I may, lift my shirt up as I do it. So I'm here. I don't want to see that. I want the chest or the sternum to stay parallel to the ceiling as I reach. So it's really slow and subtle. I tuck, right there. So as I exhaled, I'm feeling some abs. My lower rib cage has gotten smaller, not getting pulled down. It's gotten smaller. Now, I'm going to keep a little bit of that ab tension, and I want to reach the arms long throughout this process. You're going to inhale, move the bell up overhead without arching your back or losing the tuck. So it's going to be, got my tuck, exhale, reach, like that. Silent inhale, bring it overhead. And I'm only going as far as I can keep that position. Exhale, back to the start. Abs are working pretty good. I feel a little bit of chest on the way back, but it's more of a pec stretch as I go up. So I can go a little further now, just like that. And I'm really trying to keep that long reach throughout. And those are really the big keys when it comes to performing this well. You get a nice tuck, you get that reach at the start with the exhale, and you maintain the reach as you go up and down. If you're someone who's doing it a little bit more statically, say I get in position and I'm going to hold it here, I'm just going to make sure I keep reaching a little further each time. But aside from the back arching because you're not keeping abs and you're losing the tuck, there's a couple other issues on the movement upward that people will screw up that you got to be mindful of. And the first and most important one, and this is the one I see that's most common, is they either won't get that initial reach, so they'll just kind of keep the shoulders flat, and even if I tuck and exhale, it's much easier for me to flare my ribs out and arch my back because I don't have that reach to engage the abs as much. Because what will happen is if my shoulders are back, it means my thorax is a little bit more forward, and that's not going to help you get the abs. That's not going to help loosen up the chest. So we want to make sure that we get that reach. Now, the other time that people will screw this up, aside from not really reaching at the start, is as they go overhead, they'll lose the reach. So they might have like a great setup. Oh, my tuck is incredible. Silent in, exhale, reach. Ooh, you reach, I teach. And then as they inhale, they'll just kind of let it drop. And then you kind of run into a lot of the same issues that we see with the pullover, which is back arching, thorax tipping backwards problems. So you really want to focus when you're performing this activity on maintaining that reach throughout. You want to keep your arms as long as possible. And it's that length that really torches the abs, gets the chest to loosen up. And then lastly, I know I had mentioned it previously, but I want to reiterate it. On that initial reach, you want to make sure that you're not getting a crunch. You're not forcing the ab contraction. You're going to let it happen by nature of a soft exhale, a full reach, and adding the weight to the mix. Now let's go into some other pullover variations that I oftentimes utilize. The coaching cues really do not change for any of the other variations. What really differs is either the hip position or whether you're on a decline. And that's about as far as I go when we're coaching pullovers. I'm going to show you the 90-90 pullover, which is a really good variation if you need internal rotation. With the hook lying one, that one's a little bit more external rotation bias, so if you have a loss of hip external rotation, you're going to go with that one. But if you got ER and you don't have hip internal rotation, then you got to be hitting this one up, folks. The cues are all the same. The only difference is your leg position. And so with this, I'm going to have my feet on the wall, hips and knees at about a 90-degree angle, and I want to keep them centered. If you're someone who has a tendency to splay out because your IR is super whack, you might put something between your knees like that. But you're going to run through the same stuff. So I'm going to get that tuck without abs. Might be a little bit more hamstring biased here, whereas the hook line one was a little more glute. Same setup, silent in, exhale, reach, inhale, pull over, exhale, back to the start, don't let it sag. Now folks, if you're feeling really frisky, and you want to really drive hip extension and internal rotation, then you're going to go with your classic pullover over the bench. And the reason why I progress to this and start actually more so with the hook line or 90-90 is because this is hard. This is really hard to keep the hips where you need it. And that's why a lot of times when you see people doing this in the gym, they'll have this crazy arch in their back and they're doing all types of dumb stuff that makes me want to. So we don't want that. We want to progress to this eventually once we got our hips square, because it's hip to be square. And so the cues, same song and dance here. You're going to get that tuck without abs. You might push into the heels just a little bit so you get the glutes really kicking in. You don't want to go so far like this where you're getting like a nasty stretch in the quads. You want to feel glute engagement. Chances are, folks, if you are a human in this day and age, you probably don't have a whole lot of hip extension, so don't be blasting through it. We don't want to make this a back exercise. We want them phenomenal abdominals. We want that chest engaged. So I'm going to get that subtle tuck. I'm going to push into the heels. That's about as far as I'm willing to go for myself. Head back like that. Go through the same reach. Inhale. Pull over. Holy cow. Exhale, back to the start, rinse and repeat. Now folks, if you need something to really get the chest to open up, especially the higher segments, so someone who's limited in horizontal adduction, that last bit of flexion, stuff like that, then I would throw the decline pullover into the mix. And so for that, you're just gonna need a decline bench, but cues are the same, nothing really changes. It's a little harder to get a tuck here, but I'm gonna do my darndest. So I'm gonna get that subtle tuck, make sure the abs aren't doing the work to get it. Exhale and reach, right there. And then you're gonna inhale, pull over, exhale back to the start. Keep that reach. And that's how it's done, folks. All the major keys that you need to know when performing any type of pullover exercise variation, which is an awesome move for closing the lower rib cage, opening up the chest, and really working the abs. What struggles have you had with the pullover or other exercises? Is there other things you want me to walk you through so you can get the most out of them? If so, while you're here, go ahead and comment below. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and then follow your boy at ZachCouples.com. Also, if you're having a difficult time coaching moves like this, or maybe you're just like, well, there's all these exercises, I don't know which one to choose that's gonna help my Supreme clientele get the best results. Well, I can answer those for you at my seminar, Human Matrix, which is going to teach you a comprehensive movement model that will allow you to be laser-like with your exercise selection, so your Supreme clientele get the results faster than ever before. And not only that, folks, but you're gonna learn how to coach a lot of the common moves in the gym that will just take a lot of things, squats, hinges, things of that nature, to the next level. If you're watching this in 2022, I currently have 2 seminars up. The first one is going to be in Seattle, Washington, May 28th to 29th, and then I'm going to be in Boston, August 6th and 7th. If you're in Slovenia, October 15th and 16th. Go ahead, check it out, sign up at ZachCouples.com/seminars. Give it a shot. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. You've been an incredible, outstanding audience, and I hope that you keep it real, but not to the extent where things go wrong. Stay hungry, stay learning, stay moving, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.